Bradford. So no, so there's no connection. Okay.
Oh, remember this business and remember that business.
Thought he had a bar or something up there.
After each one of you get done talking.
His name was Don.
So, that's what we do a lot of times. Okay?
I'm Todd Lewis from the Napa
Remember
Auto Parts.
Petoskey Shoe Store
Yes,
Hi,
I remember
Patty.
Petoskey Shoe Store very well.
and Young's Clothing?
Yep, sure do, sure do.
That's where Wertz started.
Yep,
It is?
across the street.
And Harold Houston?
Yep, yep. Sure do.
Now, Harold had the hardware store, right?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, October 13th, 2015. I'm Barbara Tinnerman Cecil, and on behalf of Susie Spittler and Tom Beck, I want to welcome you to the 34th Oral History Taping. Today, we continue to hear about our local businesses in West Milton, and our first speaker is Carol Hayworth. Carol.
Hi, I'm Carol Hayworth, and I'm representing Tom's Pizza. Tom's Pizza started in 1973, and we were behind the Lawson store on Lowry. And our back door backed up to the police station, and it was a small building there. And my father started Tom's Pizza, Thomas Henry Manning. That's why it's Tom's. And we were over there for 4 or 5 years, and then we moved over to where the Norris Olds store was. At that time, it was, we were at the south end of the building, and there were 3 other businesses where Napa is now, and at the other end was Northwoods. And eventually, Al Drugs moved to where Napa is, but they needed more room, so Northwoods went out, and we went to that end of the building. But in 1997, I took over the business from my dad. Tom's Pizza was my dad's life. I mean, he absolutely loved his customers, and we watched everybody grow up here in Milton who were our customers. I mean, they brought their babies in, and now those babies are bringing their babies in. And we're at the north end, and it's Todd Lewis's Napa store that we're at the other end. And we're kind of like family run. Mom and Dad were from West Milton, and I grew up in Inglewood, but I don't know. We just, most of it's family that work there. Well, we have some part-timers, but then I have 2 girls who've been with me 20 years, and they're great, absolutely fantastic. They allow me to do my other business because of, the loyalty that I have from them. I guess my love is West Milton, just like Dad's, and I try to carry it on because he would come to Pizza House like about 6:30 in the morning, and he'd have breakfast with his brother, owned the Dairy Queen, Calvin, and they'd have breakfast every morning. But I think what I love most about the town and Dad running the Pizza House is that if he wasn't there at 6 or 6:30 in the morning, I'd get a call from Todd or from Joe Wilson, because I knew that he was safe down there as he grew older. And I love the people still coming in, telling me stories about Dad, and I just love the Pizza House, and I love carrying it on for him. And then I also have the Lifestyle Realty, and I have 2 partners, Donna Clark and Dottie Tyson, and we have about 10 agents. And we love selling the houses here in West Milton and the surrounding areas, and we do a lot for the Sheriff's Department, and it's just nice being here in town. And I love the small town, and I love the way everybody looks out for everybody. And I love the old family businesses and how they pass through the years. So I guess I'll pass this on to Judy Roll.
Thank you. My name is Judy Roll. I'm here to represent Amber and Jody's Hair Boutique. Me and Amber have been together 7 years. We're both graduates of West Milton. Our husbands are graduates of West Milton. We are located right across the street from Mr. Deal's grocery store and Wilson's property. I think what I would like to take from working in West Milton is my first 20 years of my career I was in Inglewood. And I always knew that I would like to end my last 20 years, hopefully, in West Milton doing hair. And I know Amber feels the same. And by working in West Milton, I can, like you said, I can bring my family in. They can help me. If it wasn't for them, we would not have our business. So I think I'm going to pass it on to you.
That's not 10 minutes.
I know, it is not.
Okay, I'm Brenda Minnick, and I'm representing Sunset Cleaners. Ron and Peg Minnick purchased 2 existing laundromats in 1967 to help supplement their declining milk delivery business. The North Miami Street location, which is 111 North Miami Street now, was the former Roxy Theater. The current location is at 1049 South Miami, which was originally Miller Chevrolet and then McGraw Chevrolet. The laundries were unattended and open 24 hours a day and called Minnick's Coin-Op Laundry. The building on South Miami Street was purchased in 1972, and 2 apartments were built above the laundromat. Fred and I lived in the north apartment for 2 years after we were married. Dry cleaning equipment was installed in 1972, and Opal Schilt and Aretha Miller, who were former employees of Dickey's Dry Cleaning, were hired to do the cleaning. And then they changed the hours from 7 in the morning till 10 p.m., 7 days a week. The name was changed to Sunset Cleaners in 1994, when Peg purchased a dry cleaners in Piqua on Sunset Shopping Center in Piqua. Then she built a new store on Downing Street in Piqua, and the cleaners up there was located over there, and Peg ran this store until she retired in 2001. I started working in the cleaners in 1973. I worked in West Milton for 6 months. I went to the Piqua store for 6 months. Then I came back to West Milton, and I worked here for 13 years. When our oldest son, Jason, was born, I would bring him to work and stick him in a laundry cart in front of one of the dryers so that he would watch the clothes turn around just to entertain him. And I have a feeling that was the beginning of his work career, as he took over Piqua's Sunset Cleaners when he was 25 years old, when Peg retired, and he has run a very successful business since. Ron started carpet cleaning, and he was affiliated with Stanley Steamer, and then when Fred joined the business, in the carpet cleaning business, they discontinued using Stanley Steamer and started their own called Sunset Carpet Cleaning. In 1981, Ron decided to build a new store in Troy on Elm Street, and I became manager of that location in 1986. On July 5th of 1990, there was a fire at the West Milton store which did $100,000 in damage. The cause was unknown, but perhaps a firecracker or a Roman candle came in somewhere in the back door, and it caught the back of the cleaners on fire. The decision was made at that time that they would no longer do any more dry cleaning there, and all the dry cleaning now is being done at the Troy store. In 1985, Bill and Fred purchased Easy Cleaners in Inglewood, and Ron retired in 1998 and sold the West Milton and the Troy store to Fred and Bill. Our daughter Ashley is now training to hopefully take over the cleaners when I retire in 8 years. I will turn it over to you, Wes.
8 years.
8 years. I want to be there 50 years.
Yeah, good luck with that.
What year was the fire?
1990.
1990.
Yeah.
I fought that fire.
Did you?
That was a hot.
Yeah. It doesn't take long for plastic to melt.
It was hot.
Good job, Todd. Well, I'm Wes Wertz. I'm currently the co-owner of Wertz Stores Incorporated. Our family's business started in 1926. My great-grandfather, Herbert Lloyd Wertz Sr., had a a store where the traction line was. He was a ticket agent, freight agent, and it was in the building across the street from the hardware store that says Wertz on the top. And it was when the traction line moved out, he needed something to do, so he had half a store started anyway, so he started a store, and they sold cigars. And I think they had pool tables too, but I wasn't here then, I don't know, I just remember stories. And then after a while, my great-grandfather and Petoskey, who owned the building across the street from the Wertz store, decided it would be better if they would trade buildings and charge each other exorbitant rent so they could write it off their income tax. So the Wertz's store was not in the Wertz building anymore. It was actually in the Petoskey building where it is right now, where the variety store is. And then the Petoskey store was in the Wertz building, and that's where Petoskey's was. And then Howard Yunt took it over years after that. People always ask me, well, why aren't you in the Wertz building? And that's why. Then after that, my grandfather took the variety store over. And then my father, Hayworth, and then in 1979, I believe, is in the summertime, Harold Houston, who started Houston's Hardware in 1932, decided it was time for him to retire. And we had the same accountant, Rex Wilson from Piqua. So Rex come in there like once a month to bring us all our accounting stuff, and he went over to see Harold, and Harold said, I think I want to sell this store. And then he went over to see my dad. They said, well, hey, Harold wants to sell his store. You want to buy it? And he goes, yeah, how much you want for it? And he said, okay. So then he just come over and gave him the keys, and we bought the store. Because at that time, it was, we had more, my sister was starting to work in a variety store, and we needed another store. So I got the hardware side, and then she got the girl side, and that's how that worked out. Over the years, we took all the hardware stuff out of the variety store, which it was a 5 and 10 general store then. And since the big boxes came along and sort of stakes out their claim on what you can sell, the variety stores turned into a more like a shop. My sister calls it, and then all the hardware that was in the variety store went into the hardware store now, and the giftwares that used to be in hardware stores a lot, like Fenton glass and those things, we moved that all over to the variety store. So it was very separated then between the girl side and the boy side. So I'll be fourth generation, and I'm pretty sure I'll be the last one. Because I'm basically, hardware store is a dinosaur with all the big boxes and stuff, and it's just hard to make money anymore. And then people go to the big boxes, even though sometimes it even costs more than but you just can't beat the entertainment value of the big box and those. And so I figured, and nobody wants to spend the kind of money to start a store to make a minimum amount of money from it and have to put in the hours you have to put in. So I imagine in the future, most hardware stores, variety stores, they're all going to be like hobby stores, or like the Angel Heaven, her husband has a accounting business and she does angel stuff, they're going to be like that. So I figure our hardware store is either going to go by the wayside or somebody will pick it up, use it for a hobby. Once in a while, you'll see a construction company will buy a hardware store and run parts through it for a money laundering operation, but I hope that doesn't happen, but very well could. That's about all I got to say about it. Bill Nestle?
My name is Bill Nestle. I have really two businesses. I started a roofing business in 1954, 2 years after I graduated from high school. And starting out, it was rough, but I stuck with it. Now it finally paid off. And if anything was built under 3 stories, I've probably roofed. I've roofed outhouses, tree houses. Of all things, a tree house. I had a doctor build his kids a tree house, but he didn't know how to put the roof on. But I had the ladders long enough, and the wind wasn't blowing that too much that one day, so we put the roof on the kids' tree house. And I was roofing 3 stories apartment houses in Dayton without a power lift to lift the shingles on the roof. And that was the last time I roofed something over 2 stories without a power lift. So doing that project, I decided to get me a power lift and lift their shingles on the roof. But I've stuck with the roofing, and finally made it kind of pay off a little bit. And I roofed 2 years in Troy with another contractor. He taught me most of my experience. Then I started in the business at 21 years. Now this is my 62nd year in business, in the roofing business. And then on the way, I picked up some real estate for rentals and downtown. And one of the better buys for the city, I bought the old Miller department store, and the Christiansburg Church has their used furniture store in there, and they bring a lot of business into Troy, into West Milton, and all the other little stores feed off the Gleaming Place, is what it's called. But they bring a lot of people into town. I've been around there, and one lady, I remodeled the ceiling in there last year, and one woman drove up from Germantown to do some business with a Gleaming Place, and it was closed. And she was disappointed she couldn't come in and shop because we was putting in a new ceiling. Anyway, and then I bought the rentals, and my newest adventure is a lady sat inside of me. She starts in an art school, and I'll let her tell something about her art school, and we'll pass it on.
Okay, my name is Misty Brown, and I've been a resident of West Milton for about 12 years. I have 2 children in the West Milton schools. They're both teenagers. And I've worked in youth ministry and worked with children pretty much all of my life, as well as in the corporate world and management. And so my background is, my education is in counseling. And so it's always been a dream of mine to create a sort of community center of sorts. And I've had the plans in the business plan for years before I even had a building. And so I started working for Mr. Nestle as his office manager, and the opportunity came along for this piece of real estate at 11 South Miami Street. And so we thought that would be the perfect place to start the Imaginarium Community Music and Arts Center. It's going to be renovated over the winter, and we should have the doors open this spring. And it's basically going to be a collaboration of music, arts, multicultural and generational activities for all ages. I really want the vision to be family-focused, something for kids to do on the weekends. I work at the senior center and do art classes out there, and teach a lot of art classes around the area for all ages. So it'll be nice to have one place to do everything. I plan on having music there. I'll be consigning out space for other artists if they would like to bring in any of their pieces that do art locally. I'll have space for classroom space and activities if anybody else would like to use it as a community center, as long as it fits within with the vision of the center. And so myself, I'll be teaching classes there. I have several other artists that are interested in teaching a variety of different activities and classes, and we'll have a big space in the back if somebody wants to come in and teach yoga or aerobics or whatever. But my passion is working with children and people, really, so I'm excited to be able to do something that's going to involve this community. I fell in love with this community 12 years ago when I brought my kids here, and I grew up in a really big high school. I went to Northmont, so it's completely different feel. And my kids are in the band, and I just really like the way that everybody knows each other here, and I know that my kids are safe, and there's eyes everywhere, and I know what they're doing. And so I want to create a safe space for kids to come and have fun and to learn about art and to, you know, really bring out their gifts and their talent and creativity. So I'd love to make it a community endeavor. You know, right now I'm just open on the weekends to get rid of some of that stuff that was left in the building, and I've put some of my art and jewelry and things out for sale, and we're having a big fundraiser renovation sale, basically, is what's happening right now on Saturdays. And then hopefully by spring the doors will be open, and we'll be rolling with the list of activities and scheduled classes. So just keep your eyes open for, you know, news and what we're going to be up to. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Kendall.
Very good, thank you. My name's Dave Kendall. I'm here representing DW Kendall Insurance Agency. And I just wanted to say my roots run pretty deep in West Milton. Been through grade school, high school here. I would also like to say in high school I was a participant on what I consider the best football team to ever play at Milton. We had back-to-back undefeated seasons and championships, and really, I don't remember now, but we were pretty highly ranked in the state. And for a little farm school, that was pretty good. So I want to thank God for that. That was a blessing. And a little bit about me in 1969. Well, I graduated from West Milton in '61, and I went off to college to play football. And I did, and it was an awesome time. I came back to West Milton, and I worked with the Allstate Insurance Company for a few years there, from 1969 to 1971. And in 1971, I started on my own, my own insurance agency in Dayton. It was actually, I was in Huber Heights, in a friend's garage. It was phenomenal, and he was very gracious. But in 1973, I purchased a building on Needmore Road in Dayton and moved my agency there. And a few years later, 1985, a fella that a lot of y'all will remember, Gene Cleather, was in the process of selling his agency. And at that time, I purchased that from him, and we merged the two agencies together. In 1986, I bought a building at 993 South Miami Street, and we remodeled it and moved our agency in there from the Lowry Drive office location that we had, which was Gene's building, and he was in the process of selling that at that time. But the building I'm in now was originally built by Bob Kraus, and it's kind of funny because Bob Kraus was originally the agent he owned an insurance agency, and that since has become the Hamler Insurance Agency. So we're kind of intermingled and blended together that way. But in 1987, my daughter Stephanie came to work with me in the agency as a file clerk. She was married at the time, had a little boy, and since 1987, of course, he's grown. He's now in the agency with me, too. So I got my first grandson in there. Thinking back, in 1987, 888 in West Milton, we used to have a Chamber of Commerce, and in those years, I was president of the Chamber of Commerce, and was actually pretty effective, though. I don't know how much we accomplished, but it might be something we want to consider starting back up. As a sidelight, in 1989, I worked with an organization called Sports World, and what we purpose to do is bring professional athletes into the school systems to talk to the kids about making right choices. And started that in 1989. I've been doing that every year since then. We've talked to over 200,000 kids, and quite truthfully, it's a pretty awesome program. It really impacts these kids, and I just thank God and praise Him. I think it's changed many lives. Insurance agency is good, and the business is good, but my real focus in life is helping kids and helping others and seeing lives changed. In 1990, I purchased another agency, the Hines Agency, which was located in Pleasant Hill, and we merged those agencies together and located them, of course, here in the West Milton office. And in 1992, my son Mike came on board with the agency. It's hard to believe. He's been there 23 years. And I thought I did pretty well with the agency, but he does a far better job than I. He knows how to use a computer, which helps immensely. And in 1998, I purchased another small agency, the Byron Kopp Agency in Inglewood. 1999, a young lady named Gail Lehman came to work with us, and this year she retired in July. So we thank Gail for her efforts. In 2002, Sue Myers come on board, and she's been with us, of course, for 13 years. And then just 2 years ago, my grandson Greg McGee came on board. He's working with us in a sales capacity. And he's the young man. He's the low on the totem pole, so you know what he gets. He gets to do all the crap. He gets to drive around and take pictures, and if there's an irate customer, he gets to deal with them. And I get a kick out of him. He's really good at it. Bill likes him. He's 30, and Bill comes in, and they just get along great. And our latest addition, young lady, Rebecca Raby, she's from Arcanum. She just come on board, and I thank God for the blessings and the many friends I've made through the years, and look for many more. So thank you very much. Let's turn this over to Todd and get him moving on.
Thank you very much. I'm not a West Milton boy. I grew up in Dayton View, and I didn't come to West Milton since 1985. I've been here longer than I've been anywhere else, and I've had a number of children graduate from Milton Union schools, but I can't say I'm a Milton boy because I didn't graduate from West Milton. A little bit of the history on the Napa Auto Parts store. I'd like to really know more history about it, but I know at least back in the 1950s it was located at 47 North Miami Street, and that's where the Cozy Cottage is today. Then it moved across the street to the Hen's Nest, 50 North Miami Street, and I've talked to people at the Genuine Parts Company who remember it there too. At some point or another, it moved to 23 Emmerich Road. That's where the West Milton Veterinary Clinic is now, and when I came to town in 1985, that's where it was currently located. I was at that time employed by an automobile company out of Indiana, and my wife and I were looking for a parts store, and there was a chain of Napa stores that was selling down, and they had 2 stores left, Tip City and West Milton. I couldn't afford 2, and I didn't want Tip City, and they said, well, we won't sell you just West Milton. We'll sell Tip City, but not West Milton. But anyway, somebody bought Tip City, thankfully, and I bought the store here in West Milton. And as soon as when I bought it, I knew I need to move it. So at that point, I got to meet Kay Wertz, Wes's dad, and Kay Wertz at that time was renting out the Wertz building. And that's where we moved this store in 1985. And that's when I moved to town with my family. And we were there through 1992. In 1990, I purchased, 2 years earlier, I had purchased this building, and they said if I hold this picture up. Okay, and that's that's right across the street from this building, and it was the Norris Oldsmobile building. Here we go, that's a great shot. It's very interesting, Wes was talking about locally owned businesses. We're in the old Ford dealership right now speaking. This is where they sold Fords. They sold Chevrolets down at the dry cleaners. I know where they tore the, where the highway comes into town now. Is that where they sold Nash's? There was a car dealer. Or was that a Chrysler? Chrysler dealership.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, in little towns like this, they had all these different automobile agencies.
This is Bonnery Zell.
Bonnery Zell. So, and so, like I said, I purchased the old Norris Oldsmobile building. That building was built after World War II, and I think it was Oldsmobile up through the 70s, and then it housed a number of different businesses until I bought it in 90, and then 92 we moved the Napa Auto Parts store there. Napa Auto Parts is somewhat of a franchise, even though there isn't a franchise agreement, and we're one of the last of the independent auto parts store organizations. A number of industries have been pushed away from the family-owned businesses. Office supply stores have all disappeared. Local lumber yards have disappeared. Local hardware stores have disappeared. Hopefully, through the strength of NAPA, the local auto parts business will be able to stay established, but we'll see that because, like Wes Wertz said, the big boxes, the industry and retail business is changing. Like I said, I want to mention I had a long-term employee, Mike Burke. He was a West Milton graduate. He passed away a few years ago, and everybody in town knew Mike. And I've had a number of people come through the store that we've been able to employ that are still good friends of ours. Coming from a big city, when I moved to West Milton, I really thought, we thought Englewood was the boonies, and West Milton, that was Egypt. I mean, I never would have thought I would end up in a little town, but it's been great. It was certainly a great place to raise my kids. I've lived here now most of my life, and I've made a lot of good friends, a lot of good people in this town. If things work out, the two young men who work for me, Tyler Schroyer and Ben Woolery, will assume the ownership of the business someday, and hopefully it can stay as a part of the West Milton fabric. And that's all I have, so I'll turn the microphone over to Patty.
I'm Patty Engel. I'm the owner of Clark's Pizzeria of West Milton. A little bit about the building. Was built in 1979, and it was first a dance studio, and John and Lois Wolf bought it and made it into Diana's Pizza, and from there Gary Bargy bought the building, and they had the business from 2001 till March of 2015, and Gary's talked to my family about purchasing the business back in January, and we started Clark's Pizza. My mom started in 1987, and it's in Bradford, and she always loved pizza. I became a nurse, and when I graduated from high school in 1989, and I worked at the pizza place, but pizza wasn't really my dream. My husband sure wanted it. And so when my children are now 20 and 22, and so we're empty nesters, and Gary talked to my husband about purchasing the building, and so we went and looked at it and fell in love with it and started Clark's Pizza of West Milton. So we have been doing really well. They had a pretty good established business already, so we hope to continue. My mom passed away last year in November, so she never got to see this, so we hope that, you know, this tradition carries on for years and years, so that's about it.
You mentioned your Henry's brother, Calvin Manning, and talk about Calvin Manning. How many years did he own the dairy?
Oh, he owned it about 55 or 56 years. My sister started there when she was 15, but some of you might remember where Willie Leisure's restaurant was.
Yes.
where-
I worked for Willie's.
Did you? The Dairy Queen. He had two Dairy Queens when he first started. One was next, well, I call it Dairy Queen Dairy Bar, but it was next to the restaurant. And my sister ran that one, and then he ran the one down there till they tore this one down. And then, of course, when he was Bud to me, Uncle Bud, when he passed, Jim took it over, then his son. And of course, he has sold it since. But I grew up in Inglewood. My parents, both of them, grew up here in West Milton and everything. And when our daughter Sherry, which most of you know, who has a handicap,
Right.
we had decided when she started school that we needed to move to the smaller school district. And it was the best move we ever made in our life. I mean, this town, I would love to play it forward to this town because they have just opened their arms to her and to us and took care of her in school. And she, of course, is my deliverer. Of course, I have to have someone go with her. But it's like family, you know.
I don't think anybody's told Sherry she has a handicap yet.
Oh, you're right, Wes. And you know what? It's all these people in the town that made her like that. And I
Yeah.
really, really
We
appreciate
were down at
it.
Skipper's one night, she comes up there and he says, "Hey, Wertz." I said, "What?" "Pick me up and put me on this chair." It was a bar stool.
See, I love
Okay.
stories like that. She worked for mom and dad since she was 14.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
She just,
Wonderful.
she knows everybody.
It's a shame that your father can't be here, because one thing Henry Manning could do was tell very interesting
Oh,
stories
yes, yes.
about the West Milton Village and the surrounding areas, and he had so many wonderful historical stories.
That's right, and I love the
And you could
people
tell
coming
most
in
of
and
them.
telling me.
And
Him
you
and Kay Wertz and my uncle, or Calvin, could sit in Jack's and tell lies and start rumors for the town too.
They're mostly true.
Yeah,
And I remember Fuller Hardware, when you talked about how they used to have the glass and things like that. Because my mother worked for Fuller Hardware, and then of course that's where,
Wasn't that a Western Auto Store?
that was where the dentist is now. I think wasn't there Bill, wasn't it hers, then Fuller Brush, then Houston? Were they side by side at the same time?
I think
You
they were,
remember?
yeah. Western Auto, that was Elliott's, wasn't it?
What's this?
Yes.
Just across the
That was
street
Elliott's.
from the hardware store next to where the drugstore used to be,
Oh,
wasn't it? You remember?
I remember, beside the drugstore, south was A&P grocery store.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That's going back,
Oh,
Bill.
you do too.
Not that
He
old.
may not.
The A&P store was right south of the drugstore. And I remember the A&P store in there, grocery store.
What buildings are we talking about today? You say just south of the drugstore. I think of Kenny's.
Was that Kenny's drugstore across the street?
It's a,
It's a financial,
yeah, it's a Ed Jones.
Edward Jones, yeah.
Isn't that the one?
Yeah.
Ed Jones store there.
Yeah.
Well, and you gotta put Layers Market in there too.
Yeah, that was on the corner next to the
Yeah,
rack.
right.
that was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a soda fountain in Lares?
No,
Mm.
he sold meat mostly.
And I remember Minnick's Dairy. He used to deliver milk to our homes. And we had-
Granville.
He was our milkman for years.
Yeah, my husband used to help with that too.
Was that the last guy in town delivering milk? I just remember.
No,
No, there was another one, but I don't know.
Thompson.
Was that Borden?
Thompson did it after Granville.
Oh, you mean the Royal Crest?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Martin Thompson,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yes, I do remember him. I do.
Mhm.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Anybody have anything else? And I remember.
I'll tell you something about, there's a good story about Burke, Mike Burke, that Todd was talking about. We called him Abe. He was a neat guy. Didn't have a pot to piss in, but it didn't bother him. You know, he was just a great guy. Do anything
Everybody
for
loved him.
anybody. Yeah. I walked into the Todd's one day, and at the time I bought it was a Delta 88 Oldsmobile I bought off my grandma from Kentucky. That's when I didn't have any money. I worked on cars every weekend because we never had one that would hold together for more than a week. You had to work on it again. So I walked in the store and I'm getting a water pump for that car. And Burke knew what it was because he'd worked on it before. So I walked in and there's a bunch of people standing around and Burke goes, "What do you need?" I said, "I need a water pump for my car." He says, "What kind of car is it?" I said, "It's green." And he said, "Is it that forest green or that crappy Northmont green?" I said, "No, it's the forest green." He goes, "Oh, okay." So he walks back, gets the water pump, comes out, puts it down on the counter. People are looking at us like, you know, because I didn't even tell him what kind it was or anything. So anyway, I took that with me and I was going to work on it when I got home after work. So I get home after work about 6:30. And I'm in the driveway. I lived out on Emmerich Road where my grandma used to live. And we rented that off of them. And I'm getting ready to, I got the hood up on the car, getting ready to work on it. And Burke pulls in, squeals the tires, you know, he jumps out of the car, "Step away from the vehicle." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you're going to screw this all up and call me at 9 o'clock after you can't get it back together, and then I'll have to come out of here after I've had my shoes off and everything and fix your car." So I figured I might as well stop and do it right now on my way home, and then I don't have to come back later. I said, "Okay." So I got to hand him tools and stuff, and he even put the water pump on my car for me. So that's the kind of, and then he died from cancer. Had a long bout with that, and that was pretty sad. But he was a good guy.
You know, I had a friend whose husband was out of work in Inglewood, and we hired him to come up and do some work one time up in the yard, and he needed a few things. So I said, "Well, come with me and we'll run uptown." And we went into Wertz's and whatever I needed, he was beside me, and we walked up the counter, and whatever it was, they just said, "Oh, Carol, give me $1." I said, "Okay." It was some screws or something, you know. Then we left there and we went over to what's the granary called? I forget. You know. Yeah, the elevator. We went over to the elevator to buy some fertilizer or something, and we pulled in there. And I bought the fertilizer, and I never saw the woman before in my life who worked there, and she says, "You need to borrow the spreader to do that?" She said, "Just take it. It's just sitting there. Just take it and use it." We pulled out there, and he's like, "What kind of a town do you live in?" I said, "Oh, that's just the way it is.
Right.
That's what they do here."
Right.
Doug Reindoff, when he first got here, he was Dick Hirsch owned that building.
Right.
And so he moves in, he's going to be the dentist. So they start redoing the dentist. He's buying paint off of me, you know, and we had a yellow room and a green room and a blue room, whatever it was. And so then the truck driver came in the variety store, or the hardware store all the time. And he has these dentist chairs, you know, big ones, and they're kind of heavy. And he goes, "I got some dentist chairs. You know who that is?" I said, "Well, it has to be Dick's new renter over here. It'd be Doug Randolph." I never met him yet. So I got his phone number. We'll call him. So we called him up, and I helped this guy unload these chairs. And we put the yellow one in the yellow room, and right to where it's supposed to be. And then I signed the papers on him, and he took off, and pretty soon Doug comes in there, and he's all, "I could get here any sooner, you know, where'd the truck driver go?" "Oh, he's gone." He couldn't wait 10 minutes. I said, "We unloaded it already." And he looked at me and, "What?" He said, "Yeah, we already loaded it. We put the green one in the green room and the yellow one." "Yeah, that's fine." I said, "What's with you people?" You know, he didn't get it. And his wife didn't get it either. That's why I think they got a divorce and she moved away and he stayed. But she didn't like the small town at all, and then he loved it and stayed here. Now I think his son's going to be here too.
Yeah.
I was pregnant.
I remember Gene Cleathers too. I remember his agency.
Mhm.
Anybody have anything else?
When I was pregnant, and this was before you guys even did delivery, I was used to getting a pizza. And my daughter was maybe like not even a couple weeks old, and I called, I made a order, and I'm like, I have a new baby and I can't wake her up to go get a pizza. So I called him like, forget the order. I forgot. I have a new baby. I can't come right now. And he showed up at the house about
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you did.
10, probably 15 minutes later, and you guys didn't even deliver. And then your dad, we have a 1964 camper, and my neighbor put a ball through the windshield, and we went to Wertz's, and we were gonna have him cut a piece of glass. He's like, you can't do that. But he's like, wait. And he took that glass and he went upstairs, and he had a glass shelf, probably from a display that fit my camper that's still in there today. And he's like, oh, here. He's like, just give me $5. And it was the same thickness of glass,
Yeah.
probably from 1964.
Yeah,
And
we
it
still
went
have some of
right in my
that.
camper. It was perfect.
It's shelving glass.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it was. He's like, oh, you can't. Yeah, that's not gonna work. He's like, I got it.
Yeah.
So both.
Yeah, I had a guy come in once in the pizza house after I took it over, after Dad passed, and he says, I want to tell you something. He said, a bunch of us lost our jobs. What was it over at the airport? What was the?
Emory.
Teeny weeny.
Emory, when Emory went out.
Okay.
Several of us lost our jobs at Emory, and we always bought pizzas in here. So he said naturally money was tight and everything, so he said there were 3 of us that used to come in all the time. But he said a miracle happened. He said every Friday, he said your dad got stuck with 3 pizzas. And he would always call us and tell us he got stuck with these pizzas. So he said we would always get our pizzas free.
Oh,
That's a nice story.
Yeah, it is.
That is,
boy, when Emory went out, that affected a lot of people.
yes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people worked at Emory from West MIltons.
My sister worked there,
Yes. Yeah.
Which one?
Georgia.
Did she?
Yeah, that's why she runs the girl side now.
Huh.
Anybody have anything else?
Was there a free lunch was gonna come with this? It was-
Yeah, lunch and dinner. It's all free. Yes. Thank you all very, very much. It's been very interesting, and we've enjoyed this hearing about the businesses, and we hope that you're all in business for many, many years to come. So,
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I've